Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृद्यन्ते हस्तोऽभ्यत्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी सतां प्रसङ्गान् मम वीर्यसंविदो भवन्तिरुत्कर्णरसायना कथः तज्जोषनादा शपवर्गवर्ध्वनि श्रद्धारतिर्भक्तिरनुक्रमिष्यति. So today's verses is start yesterday chapter 4 is started, and so yesterday first verse must have been discussed. So today is second verse. Shaunaka uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatambara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Chukaha. Synonyms. Shaunaka Uvacha said, Suta, O Suta Goswami, Mahabhaga, the most fortunate, Vada, please speak, na, unto us, Vadatam, of those who can speak, Vara, respected, Katham, message, Bhagavatim, of the Bhagavatam, Punyam, pious, Yat, which, Aha, said, Bhagwan, greatly powerful, Shuka, Sri Sukadev Goswami. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all, those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadev Goswami. And the purport, someone would like to read the first paragraph?
I'm happy to read it.
Yes, please, Mataji.
Suta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shonaka Goswami out of great joy because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of the Bhagavatam uttered by Shukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who would interpret it in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters, who are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. And someone wants to read the second?
Hare Krishna. Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, please, Indulekha.
Thank you. Such impersonalists twist some meaning out of Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views. And the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastime. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Sukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Sukadeva Goswami and his representative or bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So yes, a wonderful purport again by Srila Prabhupada. And this again, we have seen before also the importance of the speakers of Bhagavatam and who we should be hearing from, and the bona fide parampara and Guru Shishya lineage. The importance of that is there in this purport very much. But apart from that, also yesterday's verse was about the quality of the speaker. The quality of the congratulator. See, when there is a community and when there is a guest who comes, say, to a temple or to a congregation gathering, then such a guest has to be introduced by who? Who is that person and what are his qualities? Who congratulates or introduces this esteemed guest? Those qualities were discussed yesterday's verse, and today's verse speaks about the qualities of the speaker. So let's see, like first 3 chapters of Srimad-Bhagavatam, I just like to always speak about what has happened before. And so we get this like overall view of what's happening, and the entire view, like as if, when a bird is flying in the sky, the bird gets an overall view of the earth beneath. So we should also look from that view, and we should also try and look with the perspective of the verse. So we are zooming in and we are zooming out. So I thought it would be nice to just have a tiny bit of summary, and usually I try and run out of time, but I'll try my best. So the first 3 chapters of Srimad-Bhagavatam mainly focused on 3 main topics, Bhakti, Bhagwan, and Bhagavatam. So we know Bhakti was defined in this beautiful word, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhakti Radokshate, Ahaitukiya Pratihata, Yayatma Suprasidati. So the uninterrupted and unmotivated pure devotional service to Lord, that is the definition of bhakti. It is without any Mishra bhakti. So Mishra, there is a Kevala bhakti and Mishra bhakti, as everyone knows that Mishra bhakti is when we have other desires also. It is mixed up with the gnana, karma, and other propensities. But here the bhakti spoken about is the pure bhakti, that an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, who is also called pure devotee or Kevala bhakta of the Lord. That kind of bhakti. And then also there were steps, Shraddha to Prema were discussed. And then thereafter, who is Bhagwan? So this again a very important verse, Etecham Sakala Pumsa, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. So who is Bhagwan? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is Krishna? That is 138, and expansion and sources were also discussed, the various Leela Avtaras, Purusha Avtaras, and then Bhagavatam. So as we saw the last few verses of 3rd chapter, this verse that I have mentioned here, Krishne Swadhamopagate, that was the 43rd verse, very important verse. Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharma Gnana Dibhi Saha Kalau Nashta Drishamesha Puranarko Dhunoditaha. So that is Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam is a substitute for Bhagwan, because we discussed that the sixth question of the sages, the sixth question was that where did Dharma take shelter after Krishna departs from this material world, and that shelter is within Bhagavatam. Krishna is now in the book form of Bhagavatam. That's where Dharma has taken shelter. So Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, and that is beautifully explained in the 43rd verse as the chapter 3 ends, that this Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So light means, as one Mataji was asking last time, that it is the knowledge. The knowledge removes the ignorance. And how can we love someone? How can we love Krishna? We can only love Krishna if we know about him. So that knowledge comes from the scriptures, which are bona fide scriptures, and ultimately everything has to be connected to Krishna. The source is Krishna. That's why it is bona fide. So, and I also very much, as I was reading today, the purport of the last verse of chapter 3, it is just very, very amazing purport. And I think all of you have Srimad-Bhagavatam at home, the physical copies. And as we always discuss these classes, I'm sure you hold Bhagavatam with you, and then you can also read along, or when someone mentions certain verses or purports, we can always look up. That's how I try to learn, because I'm a sadhaka, I'm trying to learn, and whenever I hear something, then I just pause if it's a lecture, and then open up the Bhagavatam copy rather than the Veda base, because it's really nice when we have Srimad Bhagavatam with us, and we open and we read. So this beautiful purport of 44th verse, the Srila Prabhupada clearly says here that one can certainly see directly the presence of Lord Shri Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam, if one has heard it from a self-realized great soul like Shukadev Goswami. So today's verse also mentions the qualities of the speaker. So that's why when I was reading this purport, I thought this is very much connected to today's verse. So and that's why it's very, very important here. Srila Prabhupada clearly says in this verse that he talks about let's bring up the bogus person. So what he's trying to say here is that, to earn name, fame, prestige, and to show one's scholarship or learning, there could be many other motives why someone speaks Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is so pure and Bhagavatam is so amazing scripture that even the person who's speaking could become famous. So that there could be many other reasons why people want to do that. But when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees of the Lord, that creates transformation in the heart. Why? Because that's where this self-realization word is very important. That why does it create transformation within our heart? Because we are hearing from someone who has not only heard it from the bona fide spiritual succession, but they have understood it, internalized it, they are living with the principles, and what comes afterwards is that their own understanding, that is their self-realization, because they are speaking from experience. So it is not just that like this other impersonalist that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the purport. It is not like that they've just heard and then with some other motives they are speaking Bhagavatam. So that will not bring transformation in anyone's heart really. So and there is a beautiful verse also in that connection in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And let me bring up if I can. I'm not sure if I have put it in the slides, but I'll try to find if I have got it. Let's see. Have I? Or maybe I haven't. Oh yes, I just put it in the wrong order. So this 4th canto, hearing revives the remembrance of one's position. So hearing or Shravanam, it restores one's relationship with Krishna. And this is a prayer offered by Prithu Maharaj. And Prithu Maharaj got the darshan of Lord Vishnu, when he was doing the horse sacrifice. He had done 99 and he was about to do the 100th one. And the king of heaven, Indra, he has also performed 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices, and he did not want that an earthly king should supersede him and do equally 100 sacrifices like him, because king of heaven's position is higher. So anyway, there is a really beautiful pastime there, I'm sure most of you know. So I will just recite the verse first. स उत्तमश्लोकमहन्मुखच्युतो भवत्पदाम्भोज सुधाकणनिलः स्मृतिं पुनर्विस्मृततत्त्ववर्त्मनां कुयोगिनां नो वितरति अलम्बरैः. So here, okay, someone wants to read translation?
I'll read, Mataji.
Yes, please, Prabhuji.
My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction, but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes, so let me just bring it up to the right place. Okay, so here we can see that it is the first line. It says that Sa Uttama Shloka Mahan Mukhachyuto. So Mahan means great devotee, and Mukhachyuto. So when great devotees are saying the sweet sound vibrations of Srimad-Bhagavatam, they are filled with the glories of the Lord. And when we hear from them, what is the effect of exposing our ears to that sound vibration? It's described in these words that when the glories of the Lord, Uttam Shloka, are being sung by a pure devotee, what is the effect? What happens? So, Bhavat Padamboja Sudha Kananilaha. So, Kananilaha means the saffron dust particles that are on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. When this emanates from the mouth of pure devotee, because the devotees of Krishna carry the lotus feet of Krishna in their hearts, this is how so poetically and wonderfully we can see that Prithu Maharaj is explaining the process of glorification of Krishna and why we should hear from these devotees of Supreme Lord. And the third line is Smrutim Punar Vismruta Tattva Vartaman. So what is the effect of hearing glories of Supreme Lord from devotees? So the original Tattva or the identity of every Jiva is Jivera Swarupohoi Krishnera Nityada. So everybody in their real constitutional position loves Krishna the most. And he is a lover of Krishna, is a servant of Krishna. But that fact has been forgotten, especially in this Kali Yuga. So people are thinking they are men or women, or they are American, they are Indian, like that. So many designations are there, and we are identifying with the body and with the nation or certain designation. But when we hear glories of Krishna from mouth of pure devotees, they will be able to remember, they will be able to remind us our original identity. So by hearing Krishna Katha from devotees of Krishna, we will be able to remember what is our original constitutional position. And the last line, it is Kuyoginamno Vitarati Alambare. What is the need for any other benediction? Prithu Maharaj says. So, these are the great devotees. He's like the biggest king of earthly planet. And when he is asked to ask some benediction, because Lord Vishnu was very happy with him that he gave up the 100th sacrifice just to please Lord Brahma, and he listened to their instruction and he surrendered completely. So for him, Lord's satisfaction was more important than his 100th sacrifice. So he gives importance to that, and because of this, the Lord is very happy, and he is asking what boon you want. So he says all he wants is to remain as a servant of God and to always hear Krishna Katha in association of the Lord. So there are several prayers that we see in Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, when even Nrsingadev asks Prahlad to ask for a boon, they are all saying this, that they want to, wherever they take birth again, if they do so in material world, they want to be extremely attached to Krishna, be a devotee of Krishna. They want to hear Krishna Katha in devotees association, and they want friendly relationships with all living entities. So these are the kind of benedictions that the pure devotees ask. So this is how Prithu Maharaj glorifies the opportunity of hearing the glories of Supreme Lord from such devotees, and that purifies our consciousness. So this verse is very much related to our purport today, which are the qualities of the speaker of Bhagavatam. And this is the effect, like how the saffron dust particles of the Lord's lotus feet, along with the transcendental sound vibration, will enter our ears and then enter our heart and purify the heart and remove the ignorance. And when that happens, then we can revive our original position of loving Krishna, and we come out of the darkness, dense darkness that we are put in, right? We know that the three modes of material nature, the gunas, are really binding us. Speaking of me, they are binding us, sattva, rajas, tamas, gunas, right? So that is why we misidentify with so many designations and positions, which has nothing to do with the actual soul. So to move on, actually there is a lot. So okay, we've covered this. And then so we hear from Sukdev Goswami, and we read about what Vyasdev has written, and we also read the commentaries of Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas, and like that we are learning Bhagavatam from Guru Sishya Parampara, from a bona fide representative of Krishna. So then our hearing will have potency. It has a transformative effect on our consciousness. But if we hear for the sake of hearing from unauthorized person, unqualified person, that it may not create transformation in the heart. So we will not get the desired result. So, and one cannot be attentive while chanting or hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam. His mind is not pure. So now I am reading from the 44th verse of the 3rd chapter. The last few lines that Srila Prabhupada clearly says here, that no one can give rapt attention. If you have with you Bhagavatam, I haven't put it on the slide. So this is the purport of 1.3.44, last few lines. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. So now we can see that how brilliantly Srila Prabhupada is putting it in the practical perspective. He is saying that when there is a pure means action means eating, sleeping, mating, defending. When we eat Krishna Prasadam, sleeping, we don't sleep, oversleep. We sleep as much as is required. What is body needs to rest and rejuvenate. And mating. So not unnecessarily indulging in sense gratification activities beyond marriage. So we know the 4 regulative principles, and we know about defending also. So our basic urges of living being are fulfilled in a bona fide and authorized way, in a regulated way, in a decent and dignified way, then our activities are pure. So as per the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, mind will be pure if the action is pure. Because remember, mind is very difficult to control. We know in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is so much about the mind, so many verses. And 626, if I'm not wrong, is yato yato nishchalati manas chanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yai tat atmaneva vasham nayat. It is so difficult, Arjuna tells Krishna, that we can control the wind. I can do that, he says, because he's an excellent warrior. But I can't control this mind, Krishna. So Krishna says, by practice and detachment, you can do that. So here, mind is difficult to control, but actions are less difficult to control. So it is actually, we have to start at the senses level. Whatever is at the lowest level, we start that. So we start with purifying senses, means our actions. We try and stay away from the sense objects that are luring us. That is the Maya's job, right? So if we don't feed our senses with bad impressions, then we can purify senses, purify action, then purify the intelligence, and the highest will be mind, which comes later. Then mind will be controlled. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that first do pure actions and then mind will purify. Then you will understand properly when you hear from bona fide speakers. So these are the steps Srila Prabhupada has very nicely mentioned. And as I was reading this, I was also thinking why the senses are mentioned, the actions are mentioned first, because this is the reason that mind comes last to control. But first, we have to start with the senses and action. That is why he has given 4 regulative principles. So anyway, so yeah, so in that pure mind, when we chant, we hear the Bhagavatam class, we eat prasadam, and we associate with devotees, we serve, then hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see Krishna in every page of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what Srila Prabhupada says in that purport. And so the first 3 chapters are the glories of bhakti. We've seen all that, right? So that's done. And now in here, we can see that the chapter 4 is appearance of Sri Narada. Narada Muni appears to Vyasdev. And the contents are the Shaunaka Rishis will ask further questions. Vyasdev divides the Vedas, Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction, and Narad Muni's appearance. So here in this chapter, the first 3 verses are the questions about the history of Bhagavatam. First verse was Saunaka Rishi's qualities. So he's explained here as Vruddha. So he's someone who is eldest in that assembly of the sages. And then he's Kulapati, so he's the leader. And he's Bahuvacha, means he's the learned and mature person. So these are the qualities to congratulate a guest when he arrives. So that's why Shaunaka Rishi is representing the sages and speaking to Suta Goswami. And now in this verse, Suta Goswami's qualities, which are Mahabhaga and Vadatambara. So these are the qualities of the speaker. So he is Mahabhagavata, he is best of all the speakers, and he is Vadatambara, he is very, very fortunate. So this is the today's verse, and that's why I focused in the beginning more about the bona fide speakers and our also qualities, that when the transformation will come in us is what we need to do also. So and thereafter. Yeah, this is also very beautiful verse. I had put this because this verse speaks about that when we meet 3 types of people, how we have to interact. What should be our way of behaving with them? So if we meet somebody who is very much more qualified than us, as Srila Prabhupada says, we should be happy. We should look at them as inspiration. Say you are meeting your own Guru Maharaj, you are meeting your counselor. If you are meeting Srila Prabhupada, of course you get very, very inspired. You get very happy that they are much more qualified than you, a very wise person, a great person. Then thereafter you meet someone who is less qualified than you, or younger or junior, then you show compassion. You try and share something good that you have with them. You be compassionate towards them. And if you meet someone who is equal to you, then you make friendship with them. So if in these 3 ways, if we do our dealings daily, then there will be no problems in our relationship with people. And so when I heard this words, I thought I will put it here, because obviously we can see all these sages, they have sat down together. This picture itself is so inspiring. So we can see that how attentive and respectful they are to this great person, Suta Goswami. And everybody else is probably compassionate to someone who is less junior in their wisdom or knowledge. They're all sitting together and maybe they are friendly. So when I see this picture, I remember this word. So I thought I will put it here. Gunadhikan mudam lipset anukrosham gunadhamat maitrim samana danvichen natapera vibhuyate. So if two devotees can please read translation, one and then another purport if you like to.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Generally, when we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. These are the causes of all material tribulations. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Do you want me to carry on, Mataji? Finish reading?
Okay, so you've read the purport translation, Mataji, right?
Yes. No, sorry, Mataji. I read the purport. Do you want me to read the translation?
Okay, go ahead, Mataji.
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
Apologies.
it's fine.
Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So yeah, I think that's very clear. And seeing the time, I will move on. I'm just thinking what all I have got. Okay, yeah, this is very nice. So, okay. So here we can see that there is Srila Prabhupada and there is this little boy. And this is where I wanted to speak about here. The verse clearly talks about that we should be eager to hear. Secondly, we should not hear from bogus person or impersonalist because they will have concocted ideas and they will teach us something wrong, which will divert us from the real truth that is in Bhagavatam. Because we all know that Krishna, it is a personal relationship. We are personalists. It is not impersonal. So it is very important to realize that, okay, so we will not go so much into Mayavad or impersonalism. We will focus in what we need to do. So here, um, anything that is twisted, the meanings and all, we have to stay away from that. And we cannot jump to any cantos also. So we also saw in the last verse that Srila Prabhupada had mentioned in the purport the patience. He had said that you have to systematically follow Bhagavatam verse by verse, page by page, chapter by chapter. And for that you need patience. And we had said that how the first three verses of Bhagavatam itself, they are very much it could, you might feel, oh my goodness, how will I progress, because the philosophy is high and then slowly the storyline starts coming. So this chapter is quite nice, and then again fifth chapter there will be more philosophy. So patience is required here, right? So and then at the same time bona fide speakers are mentioned here, and that in the light of Shukdev Goswami we have to study. And this is how the bona fide Shukdev Goswami and his representatives are the bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So everything is about the speaker and who is the right speaker and who to hear from. So then I thought I will put this wonderful example of Srila Prabhupada that there was one pastime. So in the name of personal realization, one cannot concoct anything or read between lines. Okay, so sometimes we say that when there is a purport, read between lines. What it means is that internalize, understand, and give your realization. So when can we do that? We can do that when we are thoughtful, we are introspective, we are meditative, and we can certainly understand the subject matter much more than what's written there. Then you read between the lines. But say the shloka is 4 lines, right? Always the shloka is 4 lines. But if we see, there are so many long purports also. The purport might be 2-3 pages. So acharyas, they get this understanding because they have got the realization of things, so they can do that. And personal realization, with that they can elaborate the subject matter and give us the understanding. So we must read between lines, in line with parampara. If we can understand, then we can read between lines and put our realizations and examples and analogies. We can do that. But we can't miss what's in the lines. So we have to explain the subject matter in very interesting way with the Vaishnava Siddhanta. It should not be a speculation. It should not be misrepresented. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that you read between lines if you have the correct realization in line with the previous Acharya. And ultimately all the acharyas are connecting to Krishna, so then it becomes bona fide. So sometimes you may have to modify your style of preaching depending on if you are preaching to grihasthas or youth. Sometimes there are little children, like I used to go to Krishna club, and the children, they have so much innocent and intelligent questions, and you have to really explain things in a different way there. So then there is the preaching is different. Sometimes you are speaking, somebody speaking to corporates. So then again there you have to modify, but that does not mean that you give your own realization. That is not with the essence should not be missed. That's what I'm trying to say, that the Siddhanta, the philosophy should is the basis, and it should be in line with that. So here Srila Prabhupada is telling there is one small child. So when Srila Prabhupada was explaining the science of the soul and body, we all know, right? So what is the science of soul and body? We learned in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga. We are this soul, we are not this body. So he is explaining this, so he called this small boy. And then he asked him that he pointed to his hand and he said, what is this? So he said, hand. So Srila Prabhupada said, whose hand? So he said, my hand. So then Srila Prabhupada said, are you the hand? So he said, no. So then he asked about the head, like that, nose, and every time he said, my head, my nose, my leg. And Srila Prabhupada would say, are you the head? Are you the leg? And the boy would say, no. So, and then Srila Prabhupada asked him, who are you? Then so he got confused. But because he's a boy, so the soul is inside the body, basically, and the body belongs to the soul for some time only, and it is not eternal, as we all know. That soul comes to the body according to the past karmas, desires, the moods, and during one lifetime, living being takes care of this body. But one should not get attached to the body. Yes, maintain the body nicely and use the body for the service of Krishna to realize the ultimate knowledge and then go back to Godhead. But this body is temporary, and we can say my hand, my nose, my leg. So obviously the boy understands with such common little sense that we are not this body. He every time says my hand, my head. Obviously he can't articulate, but he's saying this is my belongs to me, but I am not this. So what I'm trying to say here is that very lucidly, very easily, in a very simple way, Srila Prabhupada explains science of body and soul to those gathered devotees at that time. So that is personal realization. That's what Srila Prabhupada is referring here, is that if you are in line with the essence of the scriptures and Siddhanta, and you are giving a practical example to make it understand, then that's absolutely bona fide, as long as it is not concocted. And again, the purport is clearly speaking about the lineage, that how important it is. So that's why I have put this particular verse here. So the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 5th verse was Rishibir Bahuda Gitam Chandobdir Vividhai Pruthak Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetumadbir Vinishchitahe. That knowledge of the field of activities. So what is the field of the activity? This body. And the knower of the activity is the soul, the jiva, is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Now, Here, this is very interesting. If you see, Krishna has spoken these words, and Krishna is the supreme authority, but he has quoted here various sages and Vedic writings as authority. So, why has Krishna quoted authority in these words? Because he is the supreme authority. Why he needs to say that this is spoken by sages and Vedic writing? So, Arjuna, you take it as bona fide. Why? Because even Krishna is saying that he also says that he is saying this to teach all of us that we have to depend on authority, on the who has spoken the shastra. We must depend on it. So he is emphasizing this point that Arjuna, because sages are saying this and the Vedic writings and Vedantas are saying this, you take it as the ultimate. So Krishna is authority, but he is teaching us by this verse and saying this, that look, listen to, depend on the authority. So he could have said, I am saying this, so just take it. He could have said, I mean, many verses he says, right? Bhagwan Uvacha, and then he says, this is my opinion. He says nicely, but he says, this is how it is. He also says that many rishis and sages say this, so you can attain knowledge from them by taking it from bona fide authority or source. Know that knowledge, actual knowledge descends from the Guru Shishya Parampara. So this verse is the very nice explanation of that, where Krishna himself says that take the knowledge from the authority. And Prabhupada says in this verse in the purport that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining this most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and supersoul by referring to a scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. So if Krishna accepts, obviously we also accept, and that is why Krishna is saying like that. And again, the same thing is spoken here in this beautiful verse, which is from the 12th canto. कस्मयेन विभासितो यमतुलो ज्ञानप्रदीपः पुरा तद्रूपेण च नारादया मुनये कृष्णाय तद्रूपिणा योगीन्द्राय तदात्मा नाथ भगवद्राताय कारुण्यस्तदस् तच्छुद्धं विमलं विशोकम् अमृतं सत्यं परं धीमहि. And anyone wants to read translation?
Hare Krishna, I'll read it, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah.
I meditate upon that pure and spotless, supreme absolute truth, who is free from suffering and death, and who is in the beginning personally revealed this incomparable torchlight of knowledge to Brahma. Brahma then spoke it to the sage Narada, who narrated it to Krishna. Daiva Vyasa. Srila Vyasa revealed this Bhagavatam to the greatest of sages, Sukadev Goswami, and Sukadev mercifully spoke it to Maharaj Parikshit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, so we can see here that in the beginning of creation, Krishna passed this supreme knowledge. So Supreme Lord Shri Krishna spoke this transcendental knowledge to Brahma, Brahma to Narad Muni to Vyasadev, Vyasadev to Sukadev Goswami, and Sukadev Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj, which was also heard by Suta Goswami, who was present in the assembly, and Suta Goswami then narrates it to sages of Naimisharanya. So this is all coming in the lineage of bona fide authority, all the teachings, and for us to know the knowledge and this spiritual subject matter, we have to take it from Acharya. So Krishna also is quoting authority in 13.5. He did not have done that, but he's done to teach us all that how important it is to hear from the authority. And Krishna is the supreme authority. He is the origin of all the authorities. So someone who is considered authority only if he is ultimately connected to Krishna. So still Krishna has quoted the authority for the importance of it all. And that's how I was able to, with my limited understanding, connect the purport of Srila Prabhupada with these few verses that I only could start preparing today afternoon actually. So please do forgive my mistake, but I always learn a lot when I try to understand what Srila Prabhupada is saying, and based on that, hearing his lectures and other seniors and acharyas, then we can understand that what Srila Prabhupada is saying, we should not have any concocted ideas, but just follow, just repeat what the acharyas are saying. And on top of it, if you are wise enough, if you have internalized, then yes, give examples and give your own realization, as long as it is with the shastric siddhanta and the principles are retained, then one can do that. But otherwise, one should be very, very careful not to hear it from, as the purport says, bogus person or impersonalist or somebody who has other motives to the desires from speaking Bhagavatam, name, fame, Lakshmi, or they are very scholars, they want to show off, or they just want anything else, then that is not our motive. Because if we want to purify, as we saw in the previous verse, that mind will purify if the actions are pure. And that's why we have to regulate as per the and so why waste this human life by going into the misexplanation by others. So we should very well stay away from it and follow in the line of Guru Shishya Parampara and hear from Srimad-Bhagavatam, and those who are explaining from Prabhupada's purports and they are in line with, they are also in the bona fide Guru Parampara, they are disciples of the bona fide acharyas, then definitely we can discuss with them, we can ask them, we can hear from them. And that's also 10.9, right? Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantaschu tu mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So this is what devotees do, gopis of Vrindavan do. So we discuss Hari Katha, and this is the best way to remove the miseries of material world. I mean, we accept it or not. Speaking about me, there are so many things that we try to forget, we regret, we repent. There are so many mistakes, but this is the best way to learn from the wise, the purports of Srila Prabhupada, and we can, remove our miseries by Krishna Katha is the best practical way to do that. So I would like to conclude here. Please forgive my mistakes. If there are any comments, corrections, or question, we can do so for 10 minutes. If there is, 2 minutes. But if there is nothing, we can conclude. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dhanava Pranam, Zogashwapad.
Dhanvat Pranam, Shailesh Prabhu. All gracious Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful, very, very detailed class. So you always prepare very well for your classes. So really, really, really nice. Thank you for a wonderful lecture class. Just wanted to augment one point you made.
Yeah.
So you said one of the most important characteristics that we have to have is patience. But actually our Acharya says patience is important, but more than patience, it's to have eagerness and enthusiasm towards reading scripture, and more importantly, hearing with rapt attention. So those are very important, because you can have patience, but if you don't have enthusiasm or eagerness, you can be patient for tens and tens decades, but you won't make progress unless you have eagerness, enthusiasm, and are listening with rapt attention. So those are very important additional attributes that one requires when listening to Bhagavatam. So I just wanted to augment a very nice point you made.
Yeah, absolutely, Prabhuji. I'm so happy that you mentioned this. It's absolutely true. And this reminds me automatically of this Bhagavad Gita verse we had discussed when we were doing Bhagavad Gita. And I was given this verse, Shane Shane Uparamed. So there it says that how from the seed form, the plant will grow slowly, right? First, something will come, and then two leaves will come, then slowly so slowly, gradually. But at the same time, that verse did explain, Srila Prabhupada, your point, that does not mean that a devotee becomes complacent. He does not become stagnant in his progress. He does, as you mentioned rightly, that one should be enthusiastic and eager. Eagerness is the very important quality for Shravanam. So when we the best way to learn is also Shravanam and reading, obviously. But for me, Shravanam works better than reading. So eagerness to hear. And the enthusiasm. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for mentioning those qualities along with patience. I think patience mainly works for Srimad-Bhagavatam, because as we were mentioning that all the first 3 verses itself, they are so long and there are so many pages of purport. So we should be patient that, okay, I have to go through verse by verse. I can't jump the chapter. Or if I understand the basic, then I will understand. So in that sense, patience is required. But one should not become complacent, as you said. We should be very enthusiastic, like all of you are, every evening hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So my, obeisances to all of you for inspiring. And at the same time, one should be eager. So yes, as Prabhuji said, we have to take those things on board, and we can only pray for Krishna's and Acharya's mercy that we can develop these qualities by their blessings, because we are sadhaka. So yes, thank you, Prabhuji. And anything else anyone has, or we can conclude? So yeah, so that's the second verse of the 4th chapter, and thank you so much. And so we will pay our dandavats and obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya Gaurangi.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Urmila.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.